So at least we've got the recordings anyway. So obviously some people can't make it every week. Some people are dropping out, which is totally fine, to be expected. But at least if you can't make it, you can always get on the recordings anyway. So I hope your week's been good. Some people have been sharing already. Hello, Josie. Hey, Phil. The insight is in the practice. Okay. It's like I often say, if you'd never fallen in love with someone before and you did a full weekend workshop on what it means to fall in love, and you knew everything up here about falling in love. You knew everything, all there was to know about it. And you thought you knew everything about it. When you actually fell in love and had the experience, you realized that you didn't. The experience blows it out of the water. So the experience comes through living in the world and doing the practice. It really does. Living in the world, basically, I tell you what, I said I was going to share a lot of book recommendations, which I never did. I apologize. But I'm listening to a book at the moment, and it is called On the Path to Enlightenment, Heart Advice from the Great Tibetan Masters. Beautiful book. It's just basically teachings from all the great Tibetan masters. And it's emphasized in Tibetan Buddhism, the balance between actually understanding the wisdom, settling the mind, understanding the nature of mind, but also being able to apply it in the world. I mean, over the last couple of days, we've had a bit more COVID news, which is interesting to just observe how people, and ourselves, mainly ourselves, how we respond to information like this. Do we go into fear? Do we think, oh no, this is another pain in the bum, it's going to be another lockdown? Or does the mind tell stories? Does the mind start saying, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to get my Christmas stuff, which is time, remember, future? Oh, they're going to start doing this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other. How are we wasting energy running stories? And then being able to bring it back to the practice, okay? In Tibetan Buddhism, they say, if you learn about the teachings, how to live the Buddhist path, you need challenges. You need challenges in order to apply the teachings. I come from a background of boxing, Thai boxing, and what have you. And, if I was planning on having a fight in a few months' time, I would want to be tested on my skill set. I would want to try and get as good as I could for when I'm in the ring or the cage or whatever I'm in, okay? So sometimes our spiritual fathers and mothers test us, because this is, it's serious, okay? The spiritual journey is the most serious thing that we can ever embark on. It's the purpose of the spiritual life. But if we take it too serious, we're lost, okay? So you have to have a joy and a detachment, which I think is in the chapters we're talking about today, actually, in the Tao Te Ching. So although we become light-hearted, disinterested, as the Tao Te Ching says, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, and detached from the world, it's still very important that we realize that this is the most serious thing we can do. Our job is to never have to come back to this life as our last life. And we don't want to go there alone. We vow to take all sentient beings with us to the other shore. That's a big task, so we take it serious. So, but yeah, we've got to have a good time as well. Can't take it too serious. It's a paradox. So we'll start off with a little meditation. So I invite everybody to just close your eyes. And place both hands over your lower abdomen. You just put them like this, one hand over like this, and just let them rest naturally. And just rest your awareness on your breathing. Breathe only through your nose. And just feel the body settle down into the present moment. We'll apply soul power. Never underestimate the power of this technique. If in the physical world I've said I'll always be here for you guys, if you guys called me, okay, and asked for my help, I'm there. So if you have an enlightened master who's vowed to serve all beings, if you call them, they are there. So we call them. It's as simple as that. So as I call these beings, mind power is to see them, visualize them, and feel them, just as if you were to visualize something scary or something that you don't want to visualize. The body would respond to that. It would release chemistry as if it's happening now. So when we visualize benevolent, enlightened beings, or God, or Tao, or light, whatever it is, make sure you feel them. Let them settle you down. Feel their love, compassion. Feel your heart opening. Surrender. So dear Shen Qi Jing of the divine, God. Dear Shen Qi Jing of Tao. If you have a physical teacher, call them. And if you have a physical teacher, reflect on the difference they've made in your life. And then when we call our spiritual fathers and mothers, this week's practice, last week was Da Guang Ming, this week is Da Gan En, okay? This is gratitude. So as we call specific sages, if you resonate with them, even if you've never connected with them before, just feel grateful for them. Just feel grateful for the opportunity to be together and call these beings. So dear countless healing angels and archangels, including Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, countless healing angels, archangels, holy saints, Taoist saints, Jesus, Mother Mary, Saint Francis of Assisi, and more. Lao Tzu, Chuang-Tzu, Liezi, Koswan, 8 Taoist immortals, Chuanji Qianjin, Niwan Yanyan, countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Shijamoni Fu, Amitofu, Yao Shifu, Wen Shifu, Da Shiji Pusa, Guan Shi Pusa, Alang Shengshe, Jimfa Shengshe, Healer, Akashic Record workers, keepers, leaders, ascended masters, lamas, gurujis, kahunas, Rinpoches, elders of the lands, all of our ancestors. These countless beings, we call them. Yuanling. Yuanling means all enlightened beings everywhere. They all feel different. We are all one. All humanity are one. But Chinese feel different from Indians. Indians feel different from English. Germans feel different from Australians. Different culture. so that the soul world carries their own path to the Tao, their own wisdom, their own teaching, their own light, their own frequency and vibration. Allow them all to nourish you. Now call a specific sage that you have a connection with. It might be Guan Yin, might be Jesus, might be Buddha, might be Mohammed, whoever it is. And see them just in front of you, above your head. And feel everything they represent. If you don't have a sage in mind, see divine light, God. You don't, just anything, whatever represents truth, the embodiment of truth to you. See it in front of you and just up. And we're still surrounded by countless beings. Be grateful. They ask, please forgive me for any mistakes I've made in my thoughts, actions, and speech that has brought me to this point. I'm sorry for any mistakes I've made, consciously or unconsciously. All my ancestors. Call all your ancestors. Dear, all of our ancestors be with us in this practice. In every lifetime, every ancestor we've had, countless number of beings. This is the time to heal. Simple practices like this can change generations of suffering and prevent generations in the future of suffering. Please forgive us. We offer our unconditional forgiveness to anyone that's ever hurt us in this life and past lives. We forgive all beings. May all beings be happy, which is love and kindness. May all beings be freed from suffering. This is our intention. This is compassion. And even if this was my last breath, please may my past karmas that have got me to this point be purified as I let go of this body. And while I'm here, I will serve other beings. I will serve all beings. And now see and feel your soul, heart, mind, energy, and matter meld. Meld as one, unify with the essence of the being that represents truth for you. Breathe it in. Breathe it out. And feel your body transform. Feel the base of your body like the base of a mountain. No matter how strong the winds, it's unshakable. And as we come up the mountain, the peak of the mountain is the center of our head. Imagine the view from the top of the mountain. We are able, wisdom that we accumulate from melding with whoever we called, allows us to see very far, 360 degrees over the landscape. This is wisdom. And our heart opens to send love and compassion to all the beings in all the directions. Base of the body, solid like a mountain. The peak of the mountain, center of our head, we are able to see far and wide. And we are able to send love and compassion to all beings. We're able to send Da Guangming to all beings. We're able to send Da Gan En, greatest gratitude to all beings. And bless all beings with the quality of gratitude so they can be grateful for where they are and see clearly through what life is presenting everyone. Gratitude allows us to step back from the victim mentality and see even our challenges as being a blessing. And if we bless all humanity with this, it is very liberating for all humanity. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes. It's a nice meditation to start. I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. If anyone wants to share, please feel free.
Hey, Nick, I'd like to share. Can you hear me?
I can, yep.
Oh, yeah. So just in that meditation, and you shared something about truth, what I'm really feeling for myself is like, particularly with this new variant that's coming out, right, is in that navigation of it, there is the opportunity to practice what our truth is for ourselves, like what my truth is for me, and to challenge myself in facing that truth in every level, because each level has an uncomfortableness to it. And I think that's the work that we have to do to be in our truth. And it's an ongoing process. And I think with this new, this new strand that's come out, it's just another opportunity to look at it as, okay, well, where's my truth within all of this? And then being guided by that rather than getting caught up in the whole messiness of what's being shared around the world, because there's just so much stuff. And I think we have to trust ourselves in this, and the trusting is where our truth is, I think, something like that. That's what I'm feeling with that.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. There's a lot going on in the world, and I think there's a lot more to come too. But I think fundamentally it comes down to how we are inside, and again, with always like that visualization, for example, of being on the top of the mountain so you can see the full picture. Like, you think of a battlefield. If you're here and you're at the army, you're fighting's here, you're like this. Whoever gets the high ground brings a third dimension, and they can see down, they can see how many men the other army has got. they can see what's around, they can see different vantage points and so on and so forth. So to take a higher perspective, we can see a bigger picture. So this is good to do every day, because we can reflect on what's going on. Like, I'm in a group up where I am at the moment, and you know, a lot of people can get really triggered about what they're doing right now. And I think action's important. I'm not saying don't act, do whatever your heart feels, but I can't help but see that they're literally the forces that are behind this narrative, the negative forces. I can't help but see how much they're just killing themselves. Like, the more they just do these crazy things, and the more the people who have bought into this narrative, I've got to do more and more and more, and the more people are getting sick. I mean, there was a protest in Ballina on the weekend, and I seen a clip. I tried to get there, but I couldn't get there. Actually, it was too busy, and I didn't have much time to stay there. But there was a video clip of a friend of mine who was speaking there, and she said, "Put your hands up if you personally know someone who's been affected by a vaccine." And the camera went across, and literally every single person had their hand up. So, you know, we don't have to go down that road, but I just think you look at the bigger picture, you can come out of the drama, which is what Lao Tzu's constantly telling us to do. Go back to whatever keeps us still, whatever keeps us grounded. There's a process right now where, you know, in the ancient Tao tradition, is follow Tao flourish, go against Tao finish. So I always use the analogy of swimming with a river. So you can swim, barely swim. You can just tread water if you want. You'll go with it, right? Trying to swim against it, you're going to finish. You're not going to last very long. So I think, you know, for the past era, which is, you know, I told you, my teacher says time reincarnates, the 15,000 spiritual cycles. The last one was actually a dark era. So, but now we're in what's called, he calls the soul light era. So in the soul light era, which started in 2003, they're trying to follow their plan, but it's going against the current. That's why we're seeing it. The reason they've got away with it for so long is because no one knew they did it. Like, if I watch films now, which I don't really do, but if I ever watch a film that I watched when I was a kid and I just thought was a normal film, watching them now, I can't believe how many messages and how ruthless they are from like the 80s. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what they were doing. We would never have dreamed of thinking what they're doing, but they're following. They're going against the Tao, and they're finishing. So basically, the harder they push, the more everyone sees what they're pushing. So I'm sorry to go down that track a little bit. But
yeah, I think I instigated that a little bit. But
no, that's okay. That's okay.
I really hear what you're saying, though. Like, there's so much truth and just in what you shared there, and I can't help but notice it as well now. Like, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then you get to see it all the time now because it's obvious. But it's a very
works, you see. So the conscious mind is seeing the movie. Let's use a movie as an analogy, but the subliminal messages that are not a part of the ongoing movie, they're to program your subconscious. But the thing is, once you can see it, you can't unsee it. You actually see it before you see the movie. So that's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people are seeing what they've had in plain sight for years. So yeah. Interesting time.
Sure is. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So chapter 13. Just 1 second. Okay, chapter 13. Success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with your 2 feet on the ground, you'll always keep your balance. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself, then you can care for all things. Beautiful chapter. Does anyone want to share anything on that? A lot of this, the Tao Te Ching, a lot of it triggers people, to be honest with you. We might get to some sections that might trigger people. So success is as dangerous as failure. This is Yin Yang Balance as well. My teacher always says, if things are going good, understand Yin Yang. They can change very fast, especially if they're going good and you're not using good times to serve others. Okay, you can be burning up your good virtue. You know, we look at some athletes, for example, they earn billions of dollars, which is karma. They've obviously done some good in the past, but they don't have the wisdom to balance it. They may have just done a lot of contribution in the past with material gain, but they never did enough spiritual practice. So in this life, they gain all of the what the world has to offer, but then they create so much karma with it that they fall. Okay, they have big falls. They get addicted to drugs, or they die young and things like this. So when things are going good, be detached from them and always be not expecting it. Okay, don't expect anything, just be, but don't be surprised, because nothing always goes one way. This is the yin yang nature. And the same goes for the opposites. If you've got a lot of challenges in your life and you feel like things are all closing in on you and the world's caving in on you, just know that it can change like that. Okay, you might be just as much as burning through good virtue, you might be burning through negative karma. When you've exhausted that karma, your life will change. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with your 2 feet on the ground, you'll always keep your balance. Okay, this is staying grounded and detached. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? This is beautiful, this. Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself, then you can care for all things. This is the Buddhist teaching of emptiness. Okay. I've said this with you guys before, okay? I'm repeating a teaching here, but you never repeat a teaching too much. So you always get aha moments. We label a piece of paper a piece of paper. Okay, but nothing, and if you should meditate on this. This is a daily practice for Buddhists. Nothing as its own separate self-identity. Everything, all phenomena, only exists because of countless other factors. So we take a blank piece of paper. For it to be there, there's the tree. Okay, come from the tree. For the tree to be there, the sun's in there. The rain's in there, which means the oceans are in there. You've got all the fungi and the minerals in the soil. And this is like, we're really skimming over it here, because we could go into any one of these factors and trace it back, include everything. Then we have the tree getting cut down. We have the guy who chopped it down. We have his whole ancestral line. The clothes he's wearing, the people who made it, the people who designed it, the shops he bought it from, the person who made the chainsaw, the factory, the factory where the chainsaw was made, everyone who worked there, the people who designed the machinery in the factories, the minerals where they came from, and so on. You've got the people who delivered the paper to the shops, the person you bought it off. If you drove your car there, your car's in there, all your ancestors are in there, the person that saved you, so on and so on. Now, if you took one of those factors away, right, you wouldn't have the paper where it was. So hope and fear are both phantoms that arise of thinking of the self as being a separate self-identity that is not connected to everything. We hope things in the future are going to come good for us, okay, this separate being, or we fear things are not going to work out for us, okay, for the separate self. They're phantoms that arise of thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? My Buddhist teacher said to me, she said, Nick, when you get the teaching of emptiness, the blue sky will not be the blue sky anymore. And I honestly never had a clue what she was on about when she used to say that to me. And I get it. Okay. When you meditate on emptiness, the reason that the teaching of emptiness is because this is called dependent arising or interdependent origination, which means anything that arises. So in this case, the paper is interdependent on everything else. Okay. So where does emptiness comes in? Emptiness comes in is because the only thing it's empty of is a separate self-identity, which is what we call it. We put the label, a blank piece of paper. That's the only thing it's actually not. So by being empty of a separate self, it is full of everything else. Such a profound teaching. Lao Tzu said exactly the same thing, but he summed it up in the Tao Te Ching like this. The hope and fear are phantoms that arise of thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, for all of a sudden, you don't see a glass as a glass anymore. It's everything that got it to be there in your hand. The kafir that's in it's the same. The chair you're sitting on, it's no longer a chair anymore. And we are no longer a separate self-identity. When you don't see yourself as self, what do we have to fear? The Buddha taught 84,000 methods of spiritual practice. He summed them all up in one sentence. Nothing is to be clung to as I, me, or mine. Now, even if you don't fully understand that, you should repeat that every day. When things are going hard, when you're having challenges in your life, you feel hate, reflect on that teaching. It is a great teaching to pull you out of spiritual testing, okay? If you're going through a lot of testing and you think things are hard for me, I'm struggling so much, this has happened to me, just settle yourself and repeat that line. Nothing is to be clung to as I, me, or mine. That's the illusion of the ego. The ego is trying to cling on to a separate self-identity and then put all these dramas and stories and victim identity to it, okay? When you don't see the self as self, what do you have to fear? When you understand the nature of death, it's come to me the last few days, I actually want to do a online short, don't know how long it'd be, I'd have to structure it, but basically a workshop on how to die, okay? Because in my life personally, I believe that that's one of my roles, okay? Nothing is to be clung to as I, me, or mine. I'm saying my, but this journey is, I believe a big part of it is to educate people in the West on how to die, okay? And not have no fear, understand the process. Because from when this first started to now, we've all let go of that element of us. Our bodies completely changed, okay? So when you truly understand the nature of emptiness, interdependent origination, and you don't see the self as self, which is separation consciousness, Because when you're empty of a separate consciousness, what happens? You become filled with everything else. You become one with all creation, one with the clouds, one with the ocean, one with the Illuminati who are pushing these agendas. You become one with everything, okay? And when you don't see the self as self, what do you have to fear? Fear, you don't have to try and drop fear. Fear just is non-existent. It just dissipates. You see the world as yourself. You have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself, and then you can care for all things. Beautiful chapter. Does anyone want to share anything on that?
I've been seeing myself in others. It's been quite interesting. Yeah, I think it's good.
My Buddhist teacher said to me, whatever you see in others, you will take on. If you see faults in others, you will take them faults on yourself. If you see qualities in others, you will take them on yourself.
The funny part was a teacher I see once a week. I said to her last week, oh, gee, I'd love to take you home and we could do this, this, and this. And this week she said the same thing to me, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick,
Yeah.
just with the, this thing that you feel is your calling of teaching people how to die. I can't remember the name of that, but I've actually spoken with a couple of people where that was their practice, but I keep thinking dowsing, but it's not dowsing. But there is a name for what you're talking about, where they teach people how to do this, gracefully. And and it's a real honor too, when I've spoken with these people, what they do and providing that space. So I don't think there's, well, I do. I mean, there's so many amazing, incredible services, but that in itself, I think, is one of the biggest fears that we as humans have, and so to be able to, it's not only for that specific person, but it's also for their families and their loved ones as well. So I think that's, that's a really honourable service. So I just wanted to acknowledge you in that.
Thank you. My Buddhist teacher, and I've done this practice. I love this practice. I do this practice myself. See, in Tibetan Buddhism, they say, always reflect on death when you're feeling good. Okay. So it's not a morbid thing. It's a reality. So rather than when you're anxious or you're down and reflecting on dying, and then you just become afraid because you don't understand it, read about it or reflect on it when you're feeling good. My Buddhist teacher, every night, and this is a Buddhist practice, by the way, gets in a meditative state where she lets go of everything. She runs through everything that comes up and lets it go, and gets to a point. She practices Pure Land Buddhism, so she sees Amitofu, and she gets to a point where she is prepared to die. Now, I told my mate this, and he was like, well, aren't you manifesting it? And I said, no, because manifesting, there is an emotional charge there. You're either terrified of it happening, or you're emotionally attached to it, so that you're creating an emotional, heart-based magnetism to it. Okay. But this is completely different. This is a complete surrender. If me dying now, I can save more beings, so be it. If me staying now, I can save more beings, so be it. But I am prepared to die now. If I am dying now, I say goodbye and to my body, and I'm gone. It's no attachment. And I said to her when she first told me about that practice, I said, how does it feel? It's really interesting because she's Chinese, so it's a bit of broken English, but she said, it's like being held underwater and you come up for a breath of fresh air. It's powerful teaching, powerful sharing, because it's freeing. Okay, it's freeing. In there, you know, my mum used to always say to me, oh, you know, such and such died. She was so peaceful, she died in her sleep. And I used to think that was cool. In Buddhism, that's not something that's desirable. We want to die consciously. Okay, we want to be conscious when we die, and we want to have done enough preparation in life, in our meditation, so we know exactly what's happening. We know exactly where to go. So it's very important wisdom that's definitely been lost in the West. So we'll keep going unless anyone wants to share anything.
I do. Sorry, I know this is just, I'm finding this really, really interesting. When you know, shared, or when your teacher shared, you know, she could breathe again, I felt a relaxation in that, you know, and your words of we want to die consciously, I think is so incredibly important for every individual as a human to make that conscious transition, because otherwise, you know, when that's a journey in itself, and we are welcoming, inviting our loved ones from the other side to help us in that transition consciously. And I think that's a really important stage to go into the next realm, because you can get lost in that. So I feel like, you know, that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've got a pen, another book is The Future is Open by Chogyam Trungpa. In that book, it's a book on karma, but he explains the nature of the bardo. So in Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, they talk about the bardo as well. So every journey is like a bardo. It's like a travel period. So from when you're born till you die is a bardo. Okay, and there'll be plenty of bardos in between. When you die until you're reborn is a bardo. So an analogy he gives in the Future is Open. He says, if you're going on holiday and you've prepared for the journey, okay, you've got all your money changed, you've give yourself a couple of days off before you have to go, then that period from when you leave your house to getting to the airport, going on the plane and getting to the destination is really enjoyable. Okay, it's a very enjoyable time. It's actually exciting time. Okay, if you've been completely not prepared, and you get told last minute you're going now, and you can't find your passport, and then you don't know if you're going to have time to change your money and all the rest of it, and then you try and get to the airport, you're racing to get in. That period from when you leave your house to get to your destination can be very traumatic, and that's a bardo. That's why we prepare for death. Okay, we don't want it to because death can come at any moment. We want to be ready. So
yeah, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I thought someone was going to share something. Okay, 14. Look and it can't be seen. Listen and it can't be heard. Reach, it can't be grasped. Above, it isn't bright. Below, it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable. It returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms. Image without an image. Subtle beyond all conception. Approach it and there is no beginning. Follow it and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. Look and it can't be seen. Listen, it can't be heard. Reach, it can't be grasped. This is the Tao. It's pointing in the direction of the Tao. Above it isn't bright, below it isn't dark. It's an interesting one. We see typically heaven as bright and hell as dark, okay? But if we go to this, we see that heaven and earth, or heaven and hell, or they're still in the world of form. They're still in the yo world, the existence world. So when he's talking about the Tao, he's saying above it isn't bright and below it isn't dark. It's beyond that. It's beyond yin yang. Okay, it's the creator of that. So this is deep wisdom. Seamless, unnameable, it returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all form, image without an image, subtle beyond all conception. Approach it, and there is no beginning. Follow it, and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. So, obviously, he's talking about the nature of the Tao. You can't know it, okay, intellectually, but you can be it at ease in your own life. What do you think that is? That's because we are it. The Tao is not some distant destination. This is why it's fascinating, the Tao teachings. The Tao is everywhere. There's a beautiful practice, and I'm teeing up whether to share it with you guys, maybe later on. It's called Jin Dan Da Dao Shulian. It's such a beautiful practice, very powerful practice. The only reason I'm deciding whether to share it or not is because there's a little bit to it. There's a little bit of Chinese to it, and I don't want to complicate people, but maybe in later weeks I'll play it. But basically in that song, in that mantra, what it's saying is heaven's matter, energy, soul, emptiness, and Tao. Mother Earth's matter, energy, spirit, emptiness, and Tao. And countless planets, stars, galaxies, and universes' essence all belong to Tao. Okay? So even if you're holding a glass, we see the form, we see the material aspect of it, but it's not separate from Tao, because Tao created us. We are within the Tao. So you can't know it intellectually. We can't grasp it, trying to understand what it is. Lao Tzu said in chapter 1, the Tao that can be told or comprehended by thoughts or spoken in words is not the true Tao. The more you think you've got it with your mind, you haven't. But you can be it. When the mind stops, you can be at one with the Tao. The Tao is never far from us. We are far from the Tao. If you look at this here, this is where we are, Ren, human beings. And the Tao is the complete opposite end of the circle. So we can't know it. It's too far away from us. But we can be it because we are within the circle. It's all Tao, okay? Again, take whatever you can from this. You might not be doing it any justice. At ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. That's the essence of wisdom. In Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about the nature of mind, okay? They say when we study the mind, we study what the mind produces. We study thoughts, we study projections, emotions, and things like that. But what is the nature of mind? Where does mind come from? And I'm not going to tell you where it comes from. That's your daily practice. I used to have these, I still do, I have these big, deep questions, and I'd enter my meditations with them. And I still do. And I want to get more insight into them. And I spoke to my Buddhist teacher, and I said to her, oh, I've got this. I used to hit her with so many questions. And she said, in Buddhism, that's called the Dharma bug. Okay. And she said, you always keep that because it keeps your practice fresh. It's always wanting to experience what you want to understand. Okay. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. We all come from the same source. We come from the Tao. But I can't answer that for you. That's what practice is all about. Okay. You look at
Nick,
this.
I just want to share with that. I don't know. I'm getting a lot of insights from
Good.
tonight's teaching. I just want to
Good.
share with what I got from what you just shared is like it's a constant growth and evolution, growth, evolution, growth, evolution. You know,
Yeah.
and it's that to me feels like the learnings from what you're sharing here.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I loved. You know, when I was younger, it was funny. My personality, I used to play football every day, and I wanted to be a professional footballer. And then when I was 16, I went to a Thai boxing class, and I literally never kicked a football again. And I was going to be the best Thai boxer. And then I started boxing. I love boxing. Then I started the MMA, and I was like, that's it. I'm just going to be a cage fighter. And then if I picked up the guitar, I was like, I just love the guitar. And I'd really put everything into all these things, but I never found anything that was fulfilling to me. And then and I've shared this with you guys before, but one of the reasons I was atheist for 2 years was because growing up, I actually did say my prayers. I used to pray to Jesus. Back then, I was brought up a Catholic. But I had a lot of questions. I used to ask my mum and dad all these questions. It's even when I reflect on myself being a kid, I used to ask my mum a lot of questions on death. I remember saying to my mum, what happens when you die? And she was like, oh, she just did the best she could. Said, you go to heaven and you see your nan and you see your auntie, you see everyone, and you just stay there forever. And that spun me out. I was like, forever? I said, you don't die in heaven? And she was like, no, you live there forever. And I was just like, how could you live there? That's really spun me out, the idea of being somewhere forever. So I had all these questions, no one answered them. And then obviously, some of you might know my story, but we had some really interesting life events after, I was atheist for 2 years. And then at the end of that time, really interesting time happened with our family, going to that another night, and found Master Shah. And he basically answered all of the questions I had. And not only that, I put all of his practices. I was doing CrossFit at the time. I was training really hard. And I just basically stopped training. And I was doing like 3 to 5 hours meditation a day to see if the teachings that worked, if he was saying I could open my spiritual channels, I'd never heard of a third eye or anything like this. And I put all that effort in, and I was either going to prove him right or I was going to prove him wrong. And basically I proved him right, started having incredible spiritual experiences and so on. So you're right, it's constant growth. I realized that with the spiritual path, it is the path for forever. You know what I mean? No matter whether the physical body can't keep up with it, with an activity, meditation and insight and life is amazing. Is the true growth. And that's why I love reading spiritual texts again. Like if someone phones me and I think a certain book might help them, and I say, look, I suggest reading that, and they say, oh, I've read that. I said, read it again. Even if someone said they've just read it last week, I say, read it again. Because you never read one spiritual text once. A true spiritual text will open up as you open up. I can honestly say Master Shah's books, even if I've read some of his books, 15 times, I could read them again, and it's like reading a brand new book. Constant insights keep jumping out at me. It's the same as the song Love, Peace, Harmony. I've just had that even deeper insight into that, and I've been working with that for 11 years. Okay, thanks for that sharing. Last one, we'll do a meditation. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. The wisdom was unfathomable. So think about that for a minute. I love that, because Lao Tzu is saying that. Lao Tzu, fully enlightened being who was 1,200 years old when he wrote this text, still to this day in China, considered number one deepest wisdom is the Tao Te Ching text. Okay. Universities all around the world study the Tao Te Ching in their philosophy classes. And even he is saying that the ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable, even to him. So I'm going to share something quickly. 15,000 year cycles. We are entering a new light era right now. My teacher says, Master Shah says, the saints that are coming in now, 2 ways they can come in. They can either reincarnate as kids now, a lot of special kids coming into the world, or they can assist humans. And it's called hailing, okay? Hailing, they meld with a spiritual practitioner and serve through them, okay? They're the 2 ways that these saints can assist in this time. But the saints that are coming in now are 45,000-year-old saints. These are the saints that are coming in now that Lao Tzu's talking about. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. Okay, we are entering in a light era, guys. What you're seeing in the world right now is just an old system falling away. There is no way to describe it. We can only describe their appearance. They were careful as someone crossing an iced over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid like melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment. Not seeking, not expecting, she is present and can welcome all things. So profound. So describing their appearance, this is presence right here. This is so present. As careful as someone crossing an iced over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till the mud settles and the water is clear? This is the power of being grounded. Presence. As a raging horse runs past and we get a new variant on the news and there's a lockdown on the horizon and everyone, the raging horse chains up all this dust and everyone goes bananas. Are you able to be still and just let the dust settle and see what actually happens? I used this analogy in a group I was in last week. If you have a kid, if you've been a father or you've got a nephew or something, even if you're in an environment that is a bit uneasy, if you are grounded and you feel calm, that child you're with will be totally cool with whatever's going on. No fear. But if they see adults losing the plot a little bit and they look at you and you're afraid, they become afraid because, oh my God, my dad's afraid or my mum's afraid, okay? We've got to remember that everyone in the world is like a 12-year-old kid in an adult's body. This is the importance of applying the practice. If you have the patience to let your mud settle and the mud settle and the water's clear, that's contagious. Other people will see he's calm, she's calm. I'll calm. It might be a trigger, it might just be a reminder, it might be a mindfulness bell for them. Okay, breathe. Okay, not getting caught up in this chaos. Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment. The master's not here seeking fulfillment. Not seeking and not expecting anything. She is present and can welcome all things. Doesn't see things as good or bad. There's no mind stories, no labels, okay? She sees things as they are and deals with them as they are. Does anyone want any questions? Want to share anything?
I'll share if I can, Nick.
Yes, I'd love you to.
Yeah, thank you.
all of these sections are absolutely beautiful, and really for me, it really the way I always try to understand it, or it helps me understand it, rather I should say, is like the Tao is 0 point. That we are, as clear as like a piece of whiteboard. We are all beautiful. We are everything. We are all encompassing oneness with that. And if and when we detach from that level, we understand that we are the Tao, we are part of the Tao. And that's the way I can relate to it. And again, when you said about death and all that, it's about, the self. It's like that self. It's when I consider myself, rather than service to self, but service to others, then my perspective changes. It's more fulfilling. There's less of the self. You're not so worried about, oh well, how I look or how it's got to be, or when you see the bigger picture, when you become, all of a sudden it also incorporates you. It allows you to become part of that bigger picture. And I apologize if I didn't explain myself very well, but
You did. That's you do it very well. You embody that very well. You're a beautiful person, Sylvana, and I appreciate you, everything you do.
Thank you. But that, for me, that's just how I, and this text is just beautiful. I love it, and thank you.
It is a beautiful text. It is a beautiful text, and you're right. Even down to like a physical level. I don't know. There was something you said, Sylvana, that just reminded me of this. There's a story of Buddha when he was enlightened. He walked through a battlefield. And even though there was arrows flying, spears and swords, they're all around the Buddha was just peaceful, and nothing hit him. Okay. And we can almost explain this now scientifically, because it's a vibrational thing. It literally is a vibrational thing. Whatever you're emitting, okay, you're either bringing in things on that frequency or you're not. And even in present day, there's a movie called Hacksaw Ridge. It's a pretty violent movie. Okay, so I'm not suggesting, if you're sensitive to that stuff, don't watch it. But I watched a documentary about the guy who it's based on. It's a true story. And the story of it is basically, I think he was a 7-day Adventist religious guy who joined the war and didn't want to carry a gun. And there's a story behind that, but basically he just wanted to help people. And his own military saw him as being weak, and they thought that he was a danger because he wouldn't carry a gun, and they would beat him up. They would really mistreat him. But he was a man of faith, and he would pray every day to God, pray for these people. Long story short, Hacksaw Ridge was basically a mountain ridge, and the Americans were going over, and Japanese were just picking them off, basically. He rescued 60 people. I think it was more than 60 people. He rescued 60 people in that battlefield, including Japanese. And he never got shot. He was with God. Every time he saved one person, and apparently his technique was he was wrapping rope around them and lowering them down. It would have been incredible energy to do that. And all he would do is, when he'd save one person, he'd go back on the battlefield and he'd say, please God, let me just get one more. Okay. And that's beautiful, because that's a real, like a more of a modern day story of someone who is with God. They're not in the field. They're not in the drama. They're not in the fear. And they're detached from life. They're there to serve other people. And God's with them. Okay. They're giving off that field. A bullet won't go through that field. This is an illusory reality that we're in. I share this quickly. I'm so sorry, we're going over. We should be doing a meditation now, but someone shared with me a video that I was laughing my head off. I thought it was really funny. It's not a funny situation, but this guy is in a bar in like Vietnam or Thailand or something, like a white guy, and he's on his phone. Whatever he's watching, he's laughing. Okay. This guy gets off his moped. He's got a motorbike helmet on. He comes in with a gun And everybody in the bar just hits the floor. They all bow down, lie down on the floor. And this guy with the gun walks past, literally walks right next to the guy who's on his phone laughing, empties out the register, and then just walks out like he doesn't even see. It's like the guy on the phone doesn't see him and he doesn't see the guy on the phone. It's all caught on CCTV. When he leaves, the guy comes off his phone and looks around. And when he sees everyone on the floor, he thinks they're all bowing down, and he bows down on the floor. He thought it was like a custom. But when I showed my wife got a massive insight. Danielle said, wow. She said, he could have been on a FaceTime to his daughter, or he could have been seeing something funny on an energetic frequency level. He just was not aware of what was going on. And the guy who was robbing the place, it was like they were on two different frequencies. So I just thought I'd share that. So we'll do a Tao Gan En practice now. And anyone wants to share on that, they can.
I hear what you're saying with that, what you just shared there. It's like having a simultaneous same experience at the same time, but on different frequency and different experience, but at the same moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really
so
interesting.
Even the Institute of Heart Math, they found that, and I think I've shared this, if someone comes to you and they're grieving, for example, the worst thing a person can do is lower themselves to where they're at. That doesn't mean you don't be compassionate, but this is why we meditate. We stay grounded. We stay still and compassionate and loving. And what will happen is either your frequency will be too uncomfortable for the other person. They won't want to be with you, or you'll raise them up. Okay, yeah. You'll raise them up. You wanted to say something? Someone wanted to say something then?
I was just saying that was talking about living in different frequencies. My family are always saying to me, you live in a different reality. And I do.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. It's a compliment. Okay. And I did say I would share with you guys the usefulness of uselessness, but we'll do this in a meditation. Okay, so I can get everyone to just get comfortable. When you're ready, close your eyes and rest your awareness on your breath. And put your awareness back on the saints that we called in the beginning practice, because we always invoke the soul world when we go over a text or something like this, because they can help us to gain insight. There might be a chapter where, as I'm sharing, I might get a new insight. That's not me, okay? Or you might get an insight, or you might get a heart-opening feeling. We have to show appreciation and acknowledge the soul world for their constant support. They want to help us. They want us to grow. So feel the presence of the divine and Tao and all the great masters. After Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching and then were never really seen again, about 200 years later, there was a saint called Chuang Tzu. And whereas Lao Tzu never wanted to speak, one of his texts is the sage goes around teaching, no talking. Okay. Chuang Tzu was very different. Chuang Tzu wouldn't shut up. He was hysterical. He was called the rascal saint. And Chuang Tzu would always randomly talk about useless information. And one of his disciples said, "Master, why do you talk constantly about things that are just useless?" And he said, "Useful things are only useful because of useless things. Okay, this is how the Taoist sees things. It's yin yang. Therefore, useless information is just as important as useful information. Useful wouldn't be useful if it wasn't for useless. And there's a story where he walks across this field and all of the trees have been cut down, except for one huge tree. So he says to his disciples, he says, go and ask the guy who's cutting down the trees, the logger, go and ask him why he hasn't cut down that tree. So the logger, the disciple goes over to the logger and he says, excuse me, why have you not cut down this tree? And he said, look at it. It's so lumpy and bumpy and twisted. It's completely useless. We couldn't make anything out of this. It can't be used as a coffin. It can't be used for furniture. This tree is useless. And as the logger walked off to cut down more trees that could be used for things, Lao Tzu was laughing his head off. Lao Tzu said, if you want to live a long life in this world, be useless like this tree. You'll be useless and you'll grow so big that people can come and enjoy the shade underneath you. It's a beautiful teaching. So you can reflect on that throughout the week. But I'm going to invite you all. We had a Jin Dan in the root chakra last week, Da Guang Ming. We're going to keep that visualization. But we're also going to see a second one in the second soul house or chakra, which is the third one's behind the navel. So it's in between the third and the first. So behind the navel to the root chakra, just in the middle there. Each one of these has a consciousness. It has a yin yang consciousness. It has a polarity consciousness. And I might share that one week with you guys. I'll share the unbalanced consciousness of these chakras. But this one is gratitude. Okay. And as we build these, we're not just building each chakra, we're actually building the channel which connects them all, because it's like water flowing from one place to the next to the next. If the channel in between them is clear, the energy will flow through them clearly. So see two Jindans now. And obviously, because there's a second one, they're influencing each other. The light is amplifying. It's healing your sexual organs, your digestive system, your bladder, all those organs and areas down the base of your tummy, your colon. It's nourishing all that. It's changing the information. And as you see that, see light, universal light from all of Tien, all of heaven, Mother Earth, humanity, and Yuan Ling, the stars, the sun, the moon, pouring in the divine and Tao and filling these two energy centers. And feel grateful. When we see animals and they give birth, like my little female, she gave birth to two pups, and it moved me and Danielle to tears, literally. She was young. She got pregnant by accident. Her natural instinct to just constantly, selflessly serve her pups was so moving. In Tibetan Buddhism, anybody we come in contact with since beginningless time as being our mother and has given her life for us at some point. And if we have challenges with people, it's only due to negative karma in some lifetimes. And we can reflect on our own parents in this life. We can reflect on our teachers, our loved ones, our kids, and feel gratitude. Feel grateful for what we already have. We've had a lot of challenges. Feel grateful for them. Feel grateful for what we've learned from them. Is God grateful? Is the Tao grateful? Nature is grateful. It gives because it can. It doesn't give because it wants something in return. The sun is grateful. We, this week, be grateful for everything. You feel the beautiful sun on your skin, say thank you. You feel incredible rain on your skin, say thank you. But don't force it. Don't force yourself to be grateful. Look deeply into why you would be grateful. We have a lot to be grateful for. As we continue to see this light coming in, I'm going to share a little story. My friend went to a Buddhist temple. Stay with your focus in the first two chakras. And he listened to a teaching, and the guy had just been with a Tibetan Rinpoche. And the Tibetan Rinpoche was walking around the streets. And when he'd walk past a lamppost, he'd say, "Oh, thank you so much" to the lamppost. And he said, "How can you say thank you to the lamppost?" And he said the Rinpoche, the Lama, the monk, was shocked. He said, "Somebody's made this so that we can have light." He said, "I can't believe you don't say thank you." He couldn't believe it. He was saying thank you to the road. When he went to the toilet, he was saying thank you to the toilet. Because somebody had made that for him. It was convenient. And the guy was sharing the teaching when he went home. He was driving with his wife. And he said to his wife, "Can that actually be applied to everything?" And his wife said, "I think it can." And as he was driving, there was a truck driver. There was a truck on the outside lane. And he said, "How can I be grateful for that truck?" And his wife said, "Well, he's staying in his lane. He's staying in his lane. He's keeping you safe. If he wasn't in, if you come across now, he could kill the both of us." And he got an insight. He said, we really can apply this to everything in life. So feel gratitude. We apply sound power. Da gan en. We can repeat it and then I'll sing it, okay? Why do we chant a mantra? We're bringing in that essence. We're embodying the meaning. Da gan en. Greatest gratitude. Smile, physically smile, changes the nervous system in the body, okay? Feeling grateful should open your heart. Daganen, 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 daganen. Daganen, 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 daganen. Greatest gratitude. Purest, unconditional gratitude. Be grateful to God, be grateful to life, be grateful to every breath. When you wake up in the morning, thank you for me being alive, for me waking up this morning. When you go to bed, thank you for the day. I'll chant it for you. Ta kan en. Ta kan en. Ta kan en. Ta kan en. Greatest gratitude, greatest gratitude, greatest gratitude, greatest gratitude. Tao Ganen, Tao gratitude. Tao Ganen, 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 Tao Ganen. How? As we sit in silence, just allow anything to come into your awareness. Without trying, without resisting. Whatever comes in, see it filled with light and say thank you. Whether it's something that saved you or hasn't, anything. Don't resist anything. Give it love, Da Guang Ming, see it filled with light and say thank you. Chant again, Yang. Tao Guang, Tao Ganen, Ta Ganen, Ta Ganen, Ta Ganen, Tao Ganen, Tao Ganen, Tao Ganen, Tao Ganen. I'm grateful. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free of suffering. I am so grateful for this opportunity. I will do my best while I'm here to bring peace. Wan Ling Runghe. All souls join as one. Wan Ling Runghe. Wan Ling Runghe. Wan Ling Runghe. Place our hands in the traditional prayer position. We say how. Means perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you, love you, love you. Gong song, gong song, gong song. Respectfully return to all those that we have invoked. Take your time. When you're ready, you can move around. If you want, you can stay in meditation. Yeah, even after this recording, you can sit in meditation if you're feeling in a good space. But this week is gratitude, okay? So same as last week, put reminders everywhere to be grateful. And life will give us things to be grateful for. We're always given things to be grateful for. The stool I'm sitting on, I'm very grateful for. This t-shirt and these glasses, they're all saving me, okay? A lot to be grateful for. I'm very grateful for all of you. And I really mean that. I love you all very much. Any insights or any sharing, please share throughout the week in the group chat. If you think these videos will save anyone, you please share them. I'll put this on YouTube tomorrow when it's ready. And I just want you to know that I love and appreciate you all very much. So if you want to share anything now or ask any questions, please feel free.
Sorry. I was sitting up, but I was actually nodding off, like coming in and out of that, which was really different. Like I nod off if I lay down, but that's the first time I've ever sat up and going to sleep and coming in and out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did it feel like sleep?
No, it didn't feel like sleep. It felt quite different because I haven't actually done that before while sitting up.
Well, congratulations, because if you ever go to a retreat with my teacher, for example, if you ever you look at the crowd, it's the strangest feeling of just the frequency is literally, it knocks you out. It's not like a sleep. It's like you're just gone, and you'll see so many people just like this in the crowd. I did it when I was in Melbourne with one of Master Shah's top disciples. I was just, this feeling come over me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was almost hard. I was like, I just needed to either get out of there or lay down. I'm not saying that's what you've just experienced, by the way, but I just, there's actually a photo of me somewhere. I'm just like a starfish, just lying on the floor, just knocked out. But that's good. You know, there was a guy who used to come to our Love, Peace, Harmony nights in Nelson Bay. He's a big gentleman, and he'd come and he'd start the meditation, and then after like 10 minutes, he'd lie down and fall asleep. And he'd just, you know, sleep the whole time. And I was cool with that. I used to say, and this is what I want to do with you guys as well. I want to start doing a weekly Love, Peace, Harmony meditation with the calligraphies, the big calligraphies behind me, and we can call the souls of anyone that we know who's suffering in, and really just dedicate that time to serving everyone else. But long story short, I used to say to people, if you're having a tough time or you're not well, just come and just lie down in front of these calligraphies and just let everyone chant and just be in the space. But long story short, this gentleman ended up reaching out to me after about a couple of months of coming to the events, and I hadn't really got to know him. And it turns out he was having a really hard time in his life. And he said to me, he said, you know, Nick, he said, I don't sleep. He said, I suffer with insomnia. He said, I've got a lot going on in my life, big time. And then he told me. And he said, when I go to those sessions, them Love Peace Harmony sessions, he said, I just get knocked out. And he said, I feel like I really get blessed and I get recharged. Now it's funny because when after like the third week of him coming, my wife, who's got very open spiritual channels, she said that guy who sleeps, it's the best thing he can do, because when he's awake, it's a great teaching in this, by the way. She said when he's awake, his mind's so busy that the saints, the spiritual beings we invoke, it's harder to bless him, okay, because he's got all these rigid attachments and mindsets. So the frequency knocks him out. And Danielle said when he's asleep, they really bless him. They can really help him. And then a couple of months later, he shared that with me. So I just did the retreat. I did the Heart Sutra retreat a couple of months ago with my teacher. And I felt such a difference in where he's getting now as he's progressing on his journey as well. And every time he offered a blessing, I'd literally within 20 seconds, and it's not an exaggeration, I never talk about my teacher unless people ask questions. Within 20 seconds, I'll share his teachings, obviously, but within 20 seconds, I would literally just be out. And I would be out for 15, 20 minutes, maybe more sometimes, just completely knocked out with the frequency. So, yeah, you know, when we invoke these beings and we do these practices, they're very purifying, and they can put us into a state like that. So thanks for sharing. Did you want to share, Julie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that was the same with me as well. But I also have tears running down my cheeks.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a nice release.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice release. We've got a lot to be grateful for. We can forget that a lot, including myself. You know what I mean? We get caught up in our human stuff, but Gratitude Week will be a nice week.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you. Okay, does anyone want to share, or should we call it a night?
I am sending love to all beings, especially if they cut in front of me while I'm driving. Is that a good thing?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have a karmic connection with whoever's cutting in front of you?
Yeah, you said love all beings.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I
it's
have a
good.
quote here from Paramahansa, I don't know how to pronounce it, Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yep.
He says, because you were talking about karma, he says, before you act, you have freedom. But after you act, the effects of that action will follow you, whether you want it or not. That is the law of karma. You are a free agent, but when you perform a certain act, you will reap the results of that act. I've got that printed out.
It's a great teaching. It's a great teaching. I think it's in the same book. Paramahansa Yogananda and his teacher went to see Mahatma Gandhi, and there was a mosquito on him. And Paramahansa Yogananda went to kill the mosquito, but he thought, oh, I shouldn't do it because I'm with my teacher. And his teacher said, kill it. You've already done it. You've already thought it. But, you know, my Buddhist teacher, she actually uses the analogy of intercourse. She actually says, if A as intercourse with B, something is produced like a baby, okay, then you have to take responsibility for what's been produced from that. So it's a great teaching. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for all your sharing. Thanks for taking part in it. And yeah, I really do love and appreciate you all. So, and I'm always here if you need me for anything. So have a beautiful week, guys.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Nick. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
That was
Nick.
beautiful.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.